This Power Automate desktop lesson will show you how you can extract information out of Outlook emails and save them to Excel. We'll also see how we can handle attachments. My name is Jensen. Let's learn some Microsoft Power Automate desktop. We want to navigate to Outlook, and here we want to create two new folders that will be subfolders to Inbox. One of them is called PAD and the other one is called Processed, so empty for now. Now navigate to the course page. The link is in the description below. Click to download the project files here. Click the three dots and say download. This will download a zip file, and if I just do this, then I can push it to my desktop. Here we have our zip file. Right click and say extract here. This is our project folder. If I open this one, you can see we have two folders. We have one called attachments. Open that one, that is empty. This is where our attachments will go. Then we have 5 sample emails in MSG format. We will move them into our PAD sub folder in our inbox. So Control A, and that will mark everything. Find my inbox, and let me just do this. And then I will drag them over here. So now you can see we have 5 emails in the subfolder called PAD. These are the 5 emails that we'll work on. Imagine that there will be emails coming in every day and we want to handle them. So this is just for one day for a couple of hours, but this robot will work every day. Now I will go back here, and then we can see we have an Excel book. If I open that one here, we just have an empty sheet, or almost empty. We have a table. The sheet is called emails, and then we have this table. Here we have date, from, subject, body, and attachments. The intuition is that we want to save all the information into this sheet. So let's go create that. I'll close this Excel sheet. You can also minimize this. And what I want to do is to grab this project path up here. I can shift, then I can say right click, copy as path, and then I can move back to Power Automate for desktop. Let me just see here. So the first thing we'll do is to create a variable for our project. And we can do that here. So I'll find a set variable. We'll do this because a project path can change. Right now we have it on our desktop, but it can easily move elsewhere when I move the robot into production. So the variable name, we will not call it new var. I will call this project path and then hit enter. Then in the value, I press Ctrl V. This is the project path that we just copied. Remember to move the quotation marks like this. So then I can click save. Now we have a project path. We can start the Outlook activities. So find a launch Outlook here and drag it in. This will just open up an Outlook instance that can be referred to as Outlook instance. This is a variable. Then we can click save. Say that we want to retrieve all emails from this Outlook. Then I'll find a retrieve email messages from Outlook and drag it in. Here we need an account first. And you can see we refer to the Outlook instance. That was the one we launched up here. So the account, that is just the name of your data file. My name is andersjensen.org. The mail folder, let me just show you that. That one is our inbox, and then we'll say pad. I use this pad instead of just the inbox, just to keep a little bit private here so you don't see all my emails. But also because it's easy, we only have 5 emails here. It will work on my normal inbox as well. We can just change it here in mail folder. So what I want to say is that I want to say inbox, and then I want to say pad, like this. We also want to go down here and say save attachments. And then we want to say, let me just do this. And we want to say, where do I want to save my attachments into? Well, we want to save it into the project path. That is only the main folder. Then we need to add the attachments subfolder, which we have there. So it goes like this. Click the little X here, double click the project path, then go down here, have a backward slash, and then we will just say attachments like this, and we can click save. So we have a lot of filters here. We will not touch them now. You can also say, do we want to mark them as read or not? Doesn't really matter now because we will just move them whenever they are processed. But these things you can play a little bit around with if you want. Then I can click save. So now we retrieve everything, but we will retrieve them into a list of Outlook mail messages. Let me show you how that looks. So if I click run here, the only thing we'll do is just to retrieve email messages from Outlook. And if I go over here, retrieved emails, this, here you can see our list of Outlook email messages. So if I just pick one of them, that could be from my colleague Stine, you can see this one, I can click more. Here you can see we have some different things that we can grab out. For example, we have a body, we have a date, we have a from, and we have the date that we want, a subject. So a lot of things that we can work with. And similarly, if I just go back here, and let us just see which one is this one from Anna. This one has had an attachment, so that will be this one up here. And here we can see we have an attachment here. It got saved into, actually we have two attachments, and they got saved into this path. So what I want to do is that you can see here the name was called twitterinformation.txt, and you can even see the directory. So we want to save all these information to an Excel sheet. It's very, very easy. So let me show you. I'll just click close here. We want to iterate through this list here because right now the file names are only in a list. We want to do something with them. And what we want to do is that we want a for each like this and drag it in here. So the value to iterate, that will be this list up here. When we use a for each, we always iterate through a collection of something. That could be a data table, which is a collection of data rows, or here a list of Outlook mail messages. So click this little X here and then say retrieved emails. We will store the emails into current item and we can refer to them. So for each one of the emails, we can say we want to refer to the current item. So that will make referencing very, very easy. I can click save. Nothing will really happen because we're just iterating through them, taking one by one. We're not doing anything yet. Let's just have a display message to show that we can actually get the information out of it. Display message. Then go down here to message to display. So we want the date, the from, the subject, and the body. Let me show you. So have it in here in the message to display. Click this little X here. Click this arrow to the left of current item. Here you go. We now have the things that we want. The first thing we wanted, that was the date. Double click here. This is the expression for date. That is current item.date. Then we want the from. We can of course write these, but I recommend you just do it automatically. In that way, we will reduce the risk of errors. So I click this little X here. We wanted to find the from. This is the expression from. Everything else than from looks like this with a dot, but for some reason the from will be in a hard brackets. So then we'll have subject. We don't have to worry because we can just click here, find the subject. And finally, we wanted the body. So I find the body here, move up here. That's it. Then I can just click save. Now let's try to run it to see that we can actually write out these information from the emails. Here you have it. We have the date time here, the email, the subject, and then the body. For the next email, we have it here. And similarly for the two other ones. So for now, we can write out the things that we wanted. We can grab them. Now we just need to save them to Excel, and then we want to handle attachments. Very, very simple, but you just need to know a few little tricks, so keep watching. So right now our Excel sheet is empty, but imagine that this robot runs every day. Let me just show you. So if I open up the Excel book again, this sheet here now is empty. So when we run this, we will have 5 rows added to it. But imagine the robot runs tomorrow. I don't want my data to get overwritten. So what I want here is that I want to say, add the next rows from the next emails at the bottom of this list. Then I can just change this Excel sheet every month, every week, or every day if I wanted. But don't overwrite any data. We need to tell Power Automate for desktop that. It looks like this. So I will just grab this sheet name here. I can remember it's called emails, but I like to just copy paste a lot of things so we don't make any mistakes. I right click, rename, Control C just to copy this, and then we can move out here. First thing we want to do is to launch an Excel instance, because right now we have this for each, but before that we want to make sure where we want to add the data to, just like we talked about. So I find a launch Excel, drag it up here above the launch Outlook. It's not, there's a lot of, usually we want to have in whatever sequence we have these actions. That's quite important, but sometimes it's not that important whether or not it's just one step above or one step below. So for now we place it here, but we can easily have them just before the for each, for example. We don't want to open a blank document. We want to open up the following document. Here we will use our project path again. So click this X here. We'll say project path. Then I want to say after that, we have in the project folder, we have an email called emails.xlsx. So make a / emails.xlsx like this. We will not have it visible. Then we can click save. So we are not really interested in what's there, but we just need to know when the first free row of this Excel, where the first free row of this Excel sheet is. It looks like this. So I want to say set active. This will set an active Excel worksheet and drag it in here. So I will say name, and now I will say Control V, and for some reason it's blank, but it was called emails. So the emails that we want to activate, that is called emails, and then I want to click save. So now we're activating this. We can now use a very, very clever action called get first free column row from Excel worksheet. Drag that in just beneath the set active Excel worksheet. This will produce two variables, first free column and first free row. So that is brilliant, this, because we need the first free row. So this will be an integer variable. For example, right now it's just the first one, and that will be the row 2 because we have headers on. But imagine that we have 1,000 rows in there, then we can get it like 1,001. That was the first free row, or 1,002. So then I can click save. So now we get this into a nice variable. We will not use the first free column, that's not really important, but we will use the first free row. Similarly, we also want to close Excel, because when we launch Excel in Power Automate for desktop, it sometimes lock the Excel book. So we always want to have a close Excel. Drag it in the end here. And here we will just save. So when we add data to it in this process, we will choose save. So then I can say save, like this. So now we will create an output data table where we will take all the information out of these emails. So when the robot runs, we get a list of emails. Right now it's 5 emails. And then we want to say for each one of these emails, drag the information out. And those ones will be in 5 columns to our Excel sheet. So we'll create a data row. And that has the advantage that we create this data row, add it to a data table. A data table is a collection of data rows. So we can just add 5 data rows to it. A data row is just like a row in an Excel sheet, but it only exists when the robot runs. It has the advantage that it has a huge speed / performance advantage over just writing it into Excel. We could write it into Excel in this for each, but we choose the data table activities for performance reasons. So what we want to do is to create a new data table. So up here in the beginning, I'll find a set variable here and drag it in below the first one. We will call this email data. And now we will create a data table. It will only consist of headers because we don't want to hard code any thing into it, just the headers. So our flow down here in the for each can add the things to it. It goes like this. So in the value, have 2% sign like this. Then we want the curly bracket start, curly bracket end. Then we want a head, because the head shows Power Automate for Desktop that this is a headers row. Then we want a hard bracket start and a hard bracket end. And now we can have our headers. So the first column in the Excel sheet, that was date, but let's just verify what we're actually doing here. So we're adding these 5 to our data table, so we can easily transferring them to Excel after we save them here. So the first one is date in single quotation marks, comma separated like this. The next two ones, that is from and subject. So what I will do here is just in single quotation marks, say from, comma, and then I will say, sorry, in single quotation marks, I will say subject like this, comma, and then I will say body, and then comma, and then the last one was attachment. So attachment like this, and another single quotation marks. If you forgot a comma or a single quotation mark here, we will just have an error, but it is fine for now. So now we created the variable. Now we can add things to it. So instead of this display message here, let me delete that. We will add a row into this data table for each one of these retrieved emails. So find and insert row into a data table. This is a native activity that just automatically adds the row to it. We can also do it with another set variable, but I want to show you both things so you learn the most. The data table that we want to fill in, that is the email data from up here. So click this X here and choose the email data. We want to add the row to the end of the data table. And now our values comes in. This one will be a data row. And remember, a data table is a collection of data rows. So we want to add a row, and that row needs to have 5 elements because we have 5 columns in our data table up here. Otherwise, we will have a syntax error. And what we want to do here is that we want to have 2 percentage signs in the start and in the end. We also want to have a hard bracket start and a hard bracket end like this. And then our elements comes into here. The first element we wanted, that one was the date, and it also corresponds to this date up here. So click the X here. Move into Q and item by clicking this arrow. Move up here and then find the date by double clicking it. It will look like this. So what we need to do is that we want to delete the percentage sign. These two are here. And then still inside these hard brackets, we'll have a comma. And then we want the Q and item from. So click this X here. Find the from. You can just collapse the date. It might be more easy. Again, delete the percentage sign in the start and in the end. We only need them in the start and the end of the entire row. So here we have the Q and date. Then we want the Q and item from. This is exactly the same expressions that we had before with our display message. So another comma. Then we want the X. And now we want the subject. Do like this. Delete the percentage sign again, like this. Another comma. Now we needed the body. So do like this. And double click the body. So here I'll delete the percentage sign here and here. So right now we only have 4. We also have an attachment column. We already created that here. But we haven't handled the attachments yet. We will do that a little bit later. So we'll just leave this one empty for now. That is 2 single quotation marks. Now you can click save, and we have added a row into our data table. Remember, a data table only exists in the memory. That is during runtime of the robot. That is when we click run here until the robot stops. In that way, we can use these data tables. Otherwise, it will get lost. So we need to remember to save it. And what I will do here is that I will just have up here, I'll just have a write to Excel worksheet. Move it outside the for each, because now we added items to our data table. We can write the data table once to the email data. because now we are done getting the data in email data. The value to write, that is the email data. That one is got updated here like a couple of times. Right now it's 5 rows, but it could be fewer or it could be more. The write mode, that will be on specified cell. The column, that will be column A, because we wanted to have it in the first column. That was corresponds to this column. The row, since we wanted to not overwrite any data, you can see that we found this first free column row, and we want to use this variable up here because this one gives a number where the first free row is. And I can just go in here, click this little X here, and I want to say first free row like this, and then I can click save. So now we actually have a working flow. We still don't handle the attachments, that's fine. Let's just run it to see it works. So, and let me make sure that this is done. So I close it, then I can click save. Now we are launching Excel. We set the active Excel worksheet, handle the 5 emails, and we save the Excel book. Let us inspect the data, because here in emails XLSX, there you go. We now, and let me just do this, we now have everything nice and smooth. What I can do here is that I can just wrap text, so it's a little bit more readable, but we have our body in here. If we wanted to work with them, imagine that we want to grab data out. We also have the subject here, and the attachments column, this one is empty for now, but we will fill in information about the attachments later on. So everything is here, even the received date. So quite easy, wasn't it? If you like these kind of videos, please give it a thumbs up. That will really help me a lot. Thank you. So let's handle the attachments, because we handle everything else. And let me just close this one here. Because what I want to do here, our strategy now, is that for each one of the emails in retrieved emails, and remember that one was a list of Outlook mail messages. It looks like this. So only 2 of them had attachments tied to them. So I only want to say, I want to save the attachments from those, and I want to add them to the correct column. That was the attachments column. But for the emails with no attachments attached, oh, sorry, that was a little bit. For the email with no attachments, we don't want to update the column. That should just be left blank. So we will need to ask a question here in the for each. We will do that with an if. So an if always asks a question. It says, is this true or false? And then we can act accordingly. So for each one of these emails, I will ask a question. I want to find out whether or not that email has 1 or more attachments tied to it. So the first operand, click this X here, take current item, move a little bit up, and you can see this attachments. This is a list of files. So if an email have 2 attachments, then that list will have 2 elements. If that email have 1 attachment, it will be a list with 1 element. That will still be a list. But if we don't have any elements, the list will be empty, and we will take advantage of that. So we will say if this current item dot attachments, if that is not empty, so that is if it isn't empty, then we want to do something, because now we know that we actually have some attachments tied to it. So I can do this. So, and all the actions that we want to perform whenever we have attachments will go in here. First, we want to create a unique folder, and we want to create a unique folder so we can easily find the attachments again, and we want to save that name into the Excel sheet. So here I'll find a create folder. So I just need to be a little more specific or be better to read. It was there. So create folder, drag it inside the if. So create new folder into. I want to create a new folder into the project folder, and then /attachments. And let me just show you here. We have actually saved these attachments here a couple of times because we ran the robot. These ones have got saved. Like we ran the robot like 3 times. So we want to, instead of this mess, we want to create folders for each one of the attachments instead. So I'll say create new folder into, and that one will be in my project path like this. And then I want to say I want to create it in attachments. So /attachments. The new folder name. So that will be unique, and I need some sort of a unique number. I could use the received time down to the seconds, but I could also use the entry ID, which is a unique mail ID. So the new folder name, I can go in here again into current item, and then take the entry ID and pick that one. Remember that it gets stored into a new folder here. So then I can click save. That's it. So now we create a new folder, and this is one for each one of the current items. Now I want to say, well, we can have one. I know I have at least one attachment tied to this email, but I could have more. So I need to have a for each, and then move each one of them into the correct folder. And the folder, that one, we have the name here, that was called new folder. So we can just refer to that. So now I want a for each inside this if. So find a for each. And this one will take each attachment to the email. Again, we know we have an attachment because the current item attachment is empty. So the value to iterate, well, that will be the current item attachment. So I go here and find the current item attachments. That'll be this list of files. We will not store them into current item 2, but let's pick attachment like this. And then I can click save. Now I can refer to this attachment when I want to do something. The only thing I want to do is that I want to move this attachment into this newly created folder. So go up here and then find a move file here and drag it in down here. So the files to move, well, I can just, there's only one file, and that will be the attachment. The attachment, that one was this variable here called attachment. That is a file. The destination folder, well, that was the new folder. Click here, find a new folder. If file exists, I can overwrite or do nothing. Doesn't really matter, that will not happen because the email at the entry ID is unique. So then I can just click save. So now we took all of the attachments, we created a folder for once, and we have moved them into it. Now we can update the log. So in the end of the if, I want to have a insert row into a data table. So let me go down here, press Ctrl C. And since I wanted to move it up here just before the end, click the end and then say Ctrl V, it will get pasted into just above this. So I just need to update this here. And what do I need to update it with? Well, I want to look inside the new folder, and I want to grab that name. So now I just don't want the path, I just need the name because I know it's in attachments. So open this, delete these two single quotation marks, click this X here, then have the new folder, find the name, and do like this. Remember to delete the percentage sign. There you go. We now have updated with the name as well. So I'll just save it in case my computer breaks. Power Automate for desktop never autosaves. That is a request, Microsoft, if you watch this video. So we also want to handle the emails whenever we, you can see here, we also want an else, because right now we only handle the things with the attachments on. And here we have this one here, but we want to move it up here in the if. So if we don't do this, then we want to do this. Else here, what will happen here with the attachments is that we perform this, and then we'll perform this. We're not interested in that. So I will find an else, drag the else in the end of the if. So this one will just ask, is this true? Yes, then we'll perform this, else we'll do here. So if this is not true, that means that the attachments is empty. That is, the email has no attachments. I can just drag this one into it. So now we're updating the data table accordingly. If we have an attachment, we will write that in the last element of the row. If we don't have one, we will not update it. Now we will just move for each one of the emails. We will move them into a processed folder. And that is in the end of this for each. So now we're done with everything. We can move them. So find a process email messages in Outlook and drag it in here. The account is Jensen.org. Oh, that misses an A. And again, if you want to help me, please give this video a thumbs up. That will help me a ton. This video will get out to more. I can make more videos in the future because I will get more subscribers, earn a little bit more. So thanks to each one of you that supports this channel, but also thanks to you that just watch. It's highly appreciated. So the email messages to process. That will be the current email. That will be this current item. So just pick this one here. Move email messages to mail folder. And now I want to move them. Move them into this processed folder from pad to processed. So if I go down here, say inbox, /, then I'll say processed like this, and I can click save. Shouldn't we go test it? So when I click run here, the robot will run. And the previous files that we saved will get deleted. And now we will have an entire new flow running. We can see that it took like 11 seconds. First, let's move to Outlook. Here you can see we have an empty pad and the 5 emails are now moved. So far, so good. And this is clever because next time the robot runs, it will not process these ones again. Now we just need to have move side inside the attachments like this. Here you can see we have 2 folders. So these are quite long, but they are unique names. We can also name it dates, but that doesn't really matter. Here we have one of the attachments tied to this email. We have here we have 2 of these attachments tied to the other one. And let me just go into emails here. And here we actually, if we go over here, we can see that now our rows got added to it because we ran it 5 times before. So that was these 5. Now the second run, that will be these 5s. So this, you can just see them as 5 previous emails that was expected. It won't happen again because now we are moving the processed emails to a new folder. So that was quite clever. But if you go over here, we can see that we have the attachments folder here. And again, you could argue that you want a smaller name, but that was just not the intention of this exercise. So clap yourself on your back. You have completed a very advanced Outlook email exercise. The next lesson is right here on the screen. Go click that one.